Okay, we're holding, we got a few lines into chapter 8, but we'll start again from the beginning of chapter 8. So we said that Haman wanted to, why did Haman cast lots? Because he knew that on a level of ishtalshalus, on a level where the effects of man's service to Hashem matters, is significant. So God, as he puts himself into creation, and is therefore affected by creation. So on that level, Haman knew he'll never be able to defeat the Jewish people. Why? Because as we said, every single Jew is deserving of God's blessing. We quoted the pasuk, which means that when Hashem looks down from heaven, from Shamayim, and Shamayim, we said, Shamayim is a reference to the beginning of Hishtalshalus, the beginning of creation. Because Shamayim is Shamayim, Mayim is water, water is Chachma, Chachma is Reishis Hishtalshalus. That was how we went through all that. So when Hashem looks down as creator, as he's invested in his creation, so then what happens? Uvarech es amcha es Yisrael. He blesses his people Israel. And as Rebbe pointed out, it doesn't just say he blesses Israel, it says he blesses his people Israel. Because amcha, people, amcha is a reference, is a less flattering term, and the Jewish people are called merely amcha. That's not such a flattering term, which means that they're not on such a great level when they're called amcha. And yet even so, baruch es amcha. Because since every single Jew is meritorious and full of redeemable qualities and full of good deeds, like the pomegranate is filled with seeds, so therefore there's no such a thing as a Jew that's going to be lacking or is going to be wanting. Every Jew is deserving of Hashem's blessing. So Haman knew this, and so therefore he knew that to carry out his decree, he's going to have to reach higher. So he wanted to go higher than Ishtalshalus. Now, higher than Ishtalshalus, when we're talking about that's a space where creation is insignificant. So if creation is insignificant, then the impact of creation is insignificant. And that's where it says, that light and dark are the same. Im tzedakta matitan, like the pasuk that says that what can you contribute or impact Hashem in any way? So on that level, he felt there he could do it. And even so, though, he wasn't satisfied with merely trying to access a level that's beyond creation, a transcendent level of godliness, because as we had said, that level of transcendence is what causes the exile and suffering, pain and suffering and hardships in this world, that evil could prosper and flourish, only comes from a higher level, not from a lower level of godliness. Comes from a higher level where on that level it's all the same. And so, in a sense, in order to indicate that they're the same, what's the better indication that they're all the same? When evil prospers. Because if on that level good prevails, so then there's no indication that on that level good or evil are the same, because good should always naturally should always defeat the evil. So when we say that the evil is prevailing over the good, that's a sign that it's coming from a place where good and evil are the same. Right? So on that level, that's where exile and sorrows and all the problems come from, that higher level, that level of transcendence. But even so, on the level of transcendence is also not enough. Why? Thank you. Because we gave an analogy, we quoted a pasuk from Mishlei, from Proverbs, that the spider is allowed to roam free and make its web in the king's palace, in the king's chamber. Why? Because it's in the king's chamber, and the king is busy with bigger things, more important things, so therefore he doesn't pay attention to the spider. The spider making webs in the king's palace is insignificant to the king, in his chamber. Whereas in a person's home, you see a little spider, that gets all your attention. Right? So where can the spider set up shop? Specifically in the king's chamber, right? But as we said, there's a difference between the spider making webs in the king's room and starting to destroy the furniture in the room. If the spider starts to get, that'll get the king's attention. So that we explained, that difference between in other words, we said, if in the time of Achashverosh, the Jewish people were already suffering, they were servants of Achashverosh, they were already in exile, so then what was Haman looking to accomplish even more than that, even beyond that? So he said the fact that they were in the time of Achashverosh, that shows that there was Achris Vereshis Shalai. We're talking about a level of transcendence which caused the people to be in exile, and Hushkaru Pneim, that they were suffering in exile. But there's a limit to how much that can go on. There's a limit to how much that would be allowed, and therefore Haman, even in such a time, decided he's going to cast lots. Why? Because lots is even higher than that. With lots, there you're talking about a level where there is no. In other words, when we're talking about higher than Hishtalshalus, higher than creation, so creation, higher and lower, good and bad, beginning and end are all the same. But there's still a concept of beginning and end. There's still a concept of good and evil. It's just that on that level they're all the same. The lots, the lottery that he casts, Goyrel, it's not that they're all the same, they're insignificant there. And so he felt that if he can access that level of godliness, which is even higher than that level of transcendence, then he'll be able to carry out his plan will be able to come to fruition. Okay. So what was his mistake? So now chapter 8. What was his mistake? Why did he fail? Chapter 8. So just as we find that Geirul, this idea of lottery, is higher than Seichel, higher than intellect, and also higher than Ratzin, higher than will, which means higher than Hishtalshlus and higher than Hishtalshlus, right? Seichel would be Chachma, that's the beginning of Hishtalshlus, of the created finite the level beyond, right? And as we explained, Geirul, lottery, is higher than even Ratzin, as we said in chapter 2, that if a person doesn't have a will for one thing or the other. So a person could choose between two things, right? So if he's a rational person, if there's a reason to choose one over the other, he's compelled to choose that. That's not real choice, because there's a rational reason for him to take one over the other. Sometimes you don't have a rational reason, but you just have a desire. I want one versus the other. So therefore I'm also compelled to it. But why did a person cast lots? Because he doesn't want one over the other. I don't know what I want. I don't want either of them. So what do? I cast lots. And what happens? Based on what the lot determines, that determines my will. Now that the lot comes out, with A, so now I want A, not B. So you see that the lottery has an effect on will, meaning that the lottery is from a higher space than will, right? So just as we find this true to be true with regard to lottery, it's the same is true with regard to choice. That choice, choice, bechira, is higher than both intellect and will. When one's intellect, when one's mind says that one should desire something, and even if he just desires something without any reason, without any rationale, he just desires it. So if that's the case, if either there's a reason for choosing it, or he just wants it, so then that's not free choice. Why? Because he's compelled either by his intellect or by his will to choose it. What is true choice? That's and that's when his choice is not determined by his intellect or by his will, but because he chooses that of his own free choice. So seemingly, bechira, choice, and goyrel and lottery are the same, right? They both impact intellect and will. So what's the difference? What's the difference then between lottery and choice? Is the when a person casts lots and he determines, why am I casting lots? So that whatever it is, however the lot turns out, that's what I'll desire. So then what happens when the lottery comes out? He has A and B. He doesn't know what to choose. There's no reason to choose A or B. There's no desire for A or B. So he casts lots. And what happens? I'm going to cast lots, and it'll determine whatever the lottery says, either if it's A, I take A. If it's B, I take B. Right? So what happens? Now that the lottery, let's say, falls on A, so now he takes A, and now he wants A. But why does he want A? Because of himself. He doesn't want A. The lottery said A. He decided that he'll follow what the lottery says. So if the lottery says A, so now he'll decide for A. But is it his choice that's being made? It's a choice being made for him by a lottery. But what's choice? That the person is the one who chooses. See, when we talk about lottery, what's making the choice for the person? The lottery. But if a person chooses without any reason to choose, not a rational reason to choose, not a desire for one versus the other, and without a lottery, he now comes to a determination, I choose this. So who's making that choice? The choice is coming from himself, from his essence, right? So in other words, the difference between, let's say, lottery and intellect and will is that when there's intellect and will, ultimately your choice is being made by something else. The thing itself is what's doing the choosing for you. Either because this thing is rationally a good thing and therefore you choose it because you're a rational person, or because the thing is a desirable thing, which is why you desire it. Right? Whereas free choice means I choose it, not because of the thing, but because of me. Lottery, on the other hand, is in between. Lottery, the thing itself is not what's doing the choosing for you, because they're the same. But you yourself are also not choosing it. It's the lottery that's choosing it. So the choice is made by something else, not by you. So that's why Bechira Chavshis, true free will, is deeper in the person than even lottery. Because it's in the person. Right. Because it's in the person. Yeah, mizem move on. So from here we understand the bechira hilamayla megirl. This idea, this distinction between choice and lottery. That lottery, it's the lottery that's making the decision, whereas free will, it's you that's making the decision. This shows us that choice is higher than lottery. Why? The girl who had.
But you're making the decision whether it's A or B.
I'm going with whatever the lottery decides. I'm not deciding. I've chosen to follow the lottery. Right. Yeah, but in terms of the thing itself, I don't have any choice in either of them. My choice is to follow what the lottery tells me to choose.
So that's a choice.
But it's not a choice, but I didn't choose the thing.
But you chose to accept the outcome, the verdict, whatever it is.
Fine. But what's my relationship with the thing post-lottery? It's an impersonal one. Because I've never chose it. I chose to follow what the lottery tells me to take.
So Bechira is here because of the mensch?
Let's finish the chapter here. He says like this. Yeah, like this. The goyrul who hadarga benefesh imud gderes umachrachas bezesh shnei advarim hem shavim legabo. That was going to give us a little twist on this. Yeah, that when we talk about lottery, what is the limitation of lottery? Is that it's limited by the fact that the two things are the same, are equal. But when it comes to choice, bechira is she'ein mugdar muchach beis advarim. You're not limited and confined to any specific thing, including the fact that these things are equal. And therefore he has the capacity to choose whatever he chooses. In other words, like this. Here's the difference between choice and lottery. Why is it that a person can't choose? Why can't I choose? I have A and B, so we said there's no reason that I should choose one over the other. They're the same. They're also just as likable or just as non-likable. Right, so there's no reason to desire them. So I have no reason to choose one over the other. I have no desire for one over the other. Right. So now what? So I'm stuck. I need to follow. I need to do something. I can't stand. So I make a raffle. Right. I make a lottery. Meaning, when I make a lottery, why am I making the lottery? Because the two things are equal to me. Since they're equal, I can't choose one or the other. Right. What happens if you have something in. You have something on the table, you want to pull it, and you have two magnets on either side, right? And the magnets are just as strong, right? What happens to the thing in the middle? It doesn't move. It's stuck between two magnets. It can't move. So when two things are equal to me, I'm incapable of taking one over the other. I'm paralyzed. Right? But why am I paralyzed? Because these things are the same. In other words, these things there's a definition here. There's an impact on me from the fact that these two things are the same. And so therefore I have to resort to something else in order to choose. Right? Why is it that I need a lottery? Because these two things are the same to me. But when we talk about choice, how does a person have the capacity to choose one or the other? The answer is because he's not limited to that limitation of the two things being equal. Because here it's totally himself, not anything else outside of himself. So when the two things are the same and I'm paralyzed, I can't choose one or the other, so then I'm limited by the fact that these things are the same to me. So what's impacting me? The similarity between these two things. So what's impacting my inability to choose? Something outside of myself. So then why could a person taka choose then? And by the way, the Rambam says that this idea of bechira, free will, true free will, is where man most mimics God in his essence. That hey no ya adam ka'achad imenu is ki yechidei shel olam, like God in his essence. And that's why he says that it's very difficult to understand this concept of bechira. What's the problem with understanding bechira? Not the contradictions with choice and not choice, and yet because real bechira is you can only really find it in the essence of Hashem. That's where you can find, because only the essence of Hashem is not limited or defined in any possible way. And so the fact that a human being has that capacity, that the Torah tells us that he gives us that capacity is impossible to understand. How does it mean that we can mimic the essence of Hashem that's not defined and not confined and described in any way, shape, or form? Right? So whenever there's an inability to choose, when we choose something, it's usually the thing pulling us to choose. And when we can't choose something, it's because the thing doesn't allow us to choose. So then where does free will kick in? When we're talking about the essence of the person that's not affected or impacted in any way, shape, or form by the things in front of him. And so therefore he can do the choosing. Or to put it in other terms, we talked about this in an earlier class. Does this world matter to God? Is it impact God? Does it affect God in any way, shape, or form? Yeah? So on a level of ishtalshalos in creation, the answer is of course, yeah? With the psukim that support this, right? We talked about that. There are many different examples of things that what we've done, that what we do impacts Hashem. That's on a level of ishtalshalos, on a lower level. As Hashem makes himself connected, invested, as he invests himself in this world. On a higher level, on a transcendent level, the world is insignificant. Right? We don't impact God on a higher level because he's transcendent, he's removed from creation. So creation can't impact him. But what about in God's essence? Does the world matter there or not? Is it significant or not?
Of course.
In his essence, higher than at level of transcendence. In his essence,
He created it, so it must be that it matters.
so the vart is, on the level of Hashem's essence, it depends. If he desires it, then it matters. If he doesn't desire it, it doesn't matter. In other words, it's not limited to, on a level of transcendence, the world, which is finite, can't impact him because it's finite, and this is beyond it.
But we say if he
He's
didn't
beyond
think
it, so
about
it's
it, one second,
insignificant.
it would disappear.
So is the world significant or insignificant in the essence of Hashem? It depends on what he chooses.
Why make it that?
But we say he's thinking about it all
Second.
the time. That if he would ever stop thinking
You're talking now
about it,
after the fact. I'm saying before even. It's significant or insignificant? If he chooses it, it's significant. If he doesn't choose it, it's not significant. Now, of course, once he chooses it, now, in his essence, that's the ultimate significance. It matters, afterwards, it matters more in his essence than it does even on a level of ishtalshalos. The impact of a mitzvah is felt more in the essence of Hashem than it is even in Mamalak Olam, in the Eibishter he's invested. It's most impactful on the highest level. But why? Because he chose it. So, because he chose it, why does it impact him? In other words, if a person casts lots to make a determination, right? He chooses something because he casts lots to choose it. In the end, does that thing really matter to him? It's an arbitrary choice he made. Matters to him because he chose to follow what the lot says. But does it affect him at his core? No.
But he had to go with A or B.
He had to go with one or the other. He didn't know how to go, so he had something else to determine how to get it. But why was he unable to choose A or B? Because A and B are the same to him. In other words, A and B impacted him and inhibited him from making a choice. Because A and B are both equally insignificant to him. But when he exercises free will, when he chooses, so what's activated here? The thing that's being chosen or the person that's choosing? Here it's all about the person choosing.
So Homo didn't know the Pchiri is from Goyro.
So that's where he didn't, he stopped at Geirel. That's where this is what Purim is Megala. Let's keep going. Okay. So V'yashleimar. So we're in the second paragraph here in chapter 8. Yashleimar the Bechira Yeshlem Shtei Inyanim. So we could say now that in Bechira we have these two things. In other words, you could say like this. You could say that we have a level of Hishtalshalos where what we do matters. Higher than that, you have a level of higher than Hishtalshalos transcendence where what we do doesn't matter. Higher than that is Geirel where it can go either way. And higher than that is Bechira where it matters, right? But even after the Eibishter chooses, there's a level of Geirel where it's all the same. So the Rebbe says no. That hadarge the nefesh shalamayla miseichel shalagaba shnei advarim hem b'shav darges hageirol. This level, when we talk about, that's higher than intellect, which on that level everything is equal. That's the level of geirol of lots v'zeshu beicher k'meisher reitza, and then the level of bechira, the level where he chooses. That's what he desires. Even though the two are equal to him, this comes from the essence of the neshama, the essence of the soul. And what happens as a result of it? Through choice, then the impact from the essence on the level of geirul, the level where both things are equal. What happens after choice is made in the essence? He chooses, so then that causes that the geirul should also fall. In other words, you ask, what was his mistake? Haman, maybe he knew that there's a level of bechira. But the mistake he made was that there's a level of taka bechira. But if I just go to the level of geirul is still 50-50. It's random. In fact, as we said, in a sense, you could say it's not even 50-50 on the level of geirul, because how do you see that the things are equal, specifically when the wicked prosper? That brings out that idea. So in his mind, even whether it was 50-50 or 60-40, whatever his percentage was, he felt that even so, on the level of Goyrel, there's still an opportunity for him to carry out his plan. So now the Rebbe is saying that what was his mistake? He didn't realize that once there's choice, once Hashem chooses in his essence, so that now impacts the next level down, which is the level of Goyrel, of lottery. Right? Again, the difference between Bechira and Goyrel.
Only by the Jews.
Yeah, we'll see how you feel
That's
this
his mistake.
Yeah.
He didn't know
That since the Eibush was
Bechira
Beicher,
by Jews.
therefore that affects the
higher than
Goyrel
the
as well.
Goyrel.
But not only that it's higher than it,
affects the
but
Goyrel.
it affects the Goyrel. Yeah, so that's what we're going to see. But what's the difference between Goyrel and Bechira? The difference is that by Goyrel, by lots, I'm unable to choose one over the other because they're both equal. Meaning that the things itself are preventing me from choosing one or the other. I'm impacted by the thing. But in the essence, there's nothing. There's just essence. In the Eibusher's essence, is there a world? Is there a significant? There's nothing. It's just him. If there's just him, he's not confined. He doesn't have an inability to choose because he's not compelled in any way, not in the positive way that one is over the other, and not in the negative way, the limitation of the fact that they're both equal, which inhibits his ability to choose. He's not limited by any of them. So by Goyrel, on some level, you're still impacted by the thing, whereas in Bechira, in choice, it's all you. There's not the thing itself is completely non-impactful. But obviously, once you choose, now the thing matters essentially because you chose it in your essence, right? But that's after the choice. Before the choice, he's not affected in any way by it, and therefore he could choose one or the other. And what happens as a result of that choice, that then impacts even that level of Goyrel. That the Goyrel should come out in line with the Bechira. Like the Pasuk says, it says in Tehillim that you determine my lot. The Eibusher determines my lot. What does this mean? That the Eibusher tilts, right, and points the lottery, which could be random one way or the other, in the way that will fit with what he desires with what he chooses in his essence. This is the meaning of it. It says that you choose your inheritance. Ge'on Yaakov, the pride of Jacob. The Yaakov, Ksiv Yaakov Chevel Nachalasei. What does it mean that the Eibush is going to choose Yaakov? Right? Because it says by Yaakov Chevel Nachalasei. What's Yaakov Chevel Nachalasei mean? V'targum Onkelis translates, all the Targum say, Yaakov Odav Achsante. That Yaakov Odav is the Aramaic word for Goyrel, for lottery. Achsante is the inheritance. So Odav hu Goyrel, right? Like it says, we just quoted before, Atatemich Goyroli. Goyroli is, and Targum also translates Adve. So here he's saying, Yaakov Chevel Nachalase, Yaakov, the lot of his inheritance, the portion of his inheritance, Chevel, is another word for Goyrol, right? As the Targum tells us, translates Chevel as Odav, as a lottery. So Yaakov is his lottery. But what does that mean? That it ends up being Yaakov. If it's lottery, why is it for sure to be Yaakov? It could be Yaakov, it could be Esav. It says, Haloi Ach Esav Yaakov, right? We know that Esav and Yaakov are equal in the eyes of the transcendent level of godliness. So if so, how is it possible that Yaakov ends up being the choice on that level of Goyrel? Inyan Yifchar is Ge'on Yaakov hu shegam b'dargas haGoyrel shalamayla mishtal shakol shavim sham habechiri b'Yisrael dafka. Because what does it tell us? That since the Eibusher chose Yaakov, so therefore even on this level of Goyrel, the level of Chevel, the level of Yifchar Lanu, because Yifchar Lanu, because he chose us, so therefore even when it comes to a level of Goyrel, at the Taimich Goyrali, he sways the Goyrel, he impacts the Goyrel. So it's doctored.
But the Goyrel with the Shvatim, Larav, Tarbe, Velamitam.
The Goyrel came out the way he wanted.
No, the Bechira make the Goyrel, impact the Goyrel.
Yeah, exactly. So the Goyrel came out exactly the way it was supposed to, right? Not in a random way.
But it was because of people using their Bechira.
Because of God using his Bechira.
Not us Bechira.
It goes according to God's Bechira, God's choice. So in other words, what do we say?
God's choice is higher than the Goyrel. He made the Goyrel what the Goyrel is going to be. That's what one didn't know.
Dress up like your brother.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Dress up like your brother. I mean, there's choices being made in real time.
Okay, so let's try and finish first. Maybe we'll revisit that afterwards. But the point is, we're talking about from above. Everything down here plays out according to the way it goes from above. And how is it determined by above? In a sense, what you're saying actually bears out this point. That since ultimately Hashem chooses, right? So it says, right? It's a pasuk. Yaakov and Esav are brothers, meaning they're the same. And yet, I love Yaakov, I despise Esav. What does that mean? On what level is that? That's the level of Bechira. Even though there's no reason to choose, on that level, there seemingly is no reason to choose Yaakov over Esav, they're the same. Yet, the Eibusher chooses Yaakov. And as a result of choosing Yaakov, what happens? Everything comes out in that way. So even when we get to the level of Geirol, Chevel Nachalase, right, to talk about Ata Toimich Geiroli, the Geirol, the lot, always comes out based on the way the Eibusher chooses in his essence. So it impacts even that level of lottery. So Haman tried to isolate these different levels. Sorry?
Don't play Lotto. It's not going to help you.
He tried to isolate it. But what he failed to realize is that once the Bechira, once God chooses in his essence, chooses the Jew, everything else follows suit. Everything else comes out in that way as well. Even that level of lottery comes out in line, in tune with the choice of Atzmos, the choice in essence. V'zeu.
How do you choose the numbers?
Random.
V'zeu al Kein karu.
So you think.
V'zeu al Kein karu l'yamei l'purim al shem hapur. This is the meaning of the pasuk that we opened with. This is why the holiday is called Purim, not based on the Pur, right? Remember, now we understand everything makes sense, right? We've answered many of our questions that we opened the Maimer with, but remember, there's still one question, on one question we didn't answer, a question that we asked later, which is why is it that Purim is called? If we discussed in the Maimer here that Pur is a very high level. This idea of lottery is a very high level, and now we're learning that the Eibusher chose the Yidden, and so therefore, because the Eibusher chose the Yidden, so therefore that impacts even the Pur. Even lottery, that even on the level of Geirul, even on the level of lottery, it comes out in favor of the Jewish people. Fine. But there's still one question that, so we understand Purim could be called Pur, because it talks about a very high level of godliness that was revealed at the time of Purim. The connection the Yid has with the Eibusher chooses Yid, and that affects even in the Geirul. Okay. But we said it's called Purim al Shem HaPur. It was called Purim because of the lottery. Which lottery are we referring to? What's the known lottery in the Megillah? The one that Haman cast. Haman's lottery was to destroy, God forbid. That was a negative thing. So why would we call the holiday, even we want to name it Pur because it's a very high thing, okay. But why do you call it Purim al Shem HaPur? Because of Haman's lottery. Haman's lottery was good or bad? Haman's lottery was seemingly bad. So if you want to talk about the idea of lottery and say that the idea of Purim is expressed in the idea of lottery, okay. But why HaPur? That we haven't answered yet. But based on what we just said, now we can answer that question as well. So why is it called Purim al Shem HaPur? Because of the lottery, meaning Haman's lottery. Because what happened when Haman cast lots, that lottery came out at the very beginning. Haman's lot itself, when it fell out in the month of Adar, and he was happy that in the month of Adar because that was when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. He was happy. That lottery itself was in line with the choice of Atzmos, of God in His essence. The Hagam Shach Esav Yaakov. Even though we know that Esav and Yaakov are brothers, nevertheless, I love Yaakov and I hate Esav. Through the Jewish people self-sacrifice all year. The which the self-sacrifice comes from the essence of the neshama. Meaning, because of the choice of the essence of the neshama in God. Through that, we access and express God's essential choice in the Jewish people, where it exists on the level of in His essence, the idea of Bechira Chavshis. And so therefore, even when we talk about the level of lottery, even there, what was determined that for the Jewish people it should be light and joy, gladness and honor. And Haman and his children will be hung on the gallows. And the verse emphasizes the lottery behei hayidiyah, with the known defined lottery, the one that we know. Shekoy ala pur shipul Haman kinal sifei. We're talking about the pur that Haman, the lots that he cast. Why? And as the Purim, through the miracle of Purim, is gala shagama pur shipul Haman haymelchatchil b'shvil agilui debechiras atzmos b'Yisrael. Because the miracle of Purim shows that Haman casting lots in the first place was to reveal God's essential choice in the Jewish people. This is why the Pur falls out. The lot fell for the month of Adar, the month which the Redeemer of Israel was born. The whole idea of the Pur is, the Medrash says, the Gemara says, right, Haman cast lots, and when it comes to Adar, he was happy. Why was he happy? He said that's the month that the Redeemer of the Jewish people died, meaning they're in trouble, right? What he failed to realize is that was also the month that the Redeemer of Israel was born. But that was true already then. When the lot was cast, that was true, right? Meaning that when the lot came out, the lot was cast and fell on the month in which the Redeemer of the Jewish people was born. That was the inner part of it. Right? And so therefore, what do we see? That even the lot that Haman cast, the whole point of his lot was to show that even on that level of lottery, where seemingly Yaakov and Esav are the same, even there, what comes out? It comes out to the benefit of the Jewish people. And the same is true with regard to the gallows, which Haman had prepared for him. So Leila Atzmai. It says that Haman comes to report to Achashverosh about the gallows which he had created for him. So who's for him? So the Gemara says for him, for himself, meaning, right? Not Asher Hechin LeMordechai, but Asher Hechin Loi, that he prepared for himself. That's what he was kind of saying. That's what it implies. In other words, all the while that he was building it really for himself. Why did Haman create a gallows that was 50 cubits? Because he wanted to reach a level, the 50th gate, which is higher than Shishtalshalos. There, it would be possible for him to be able to hang Mordechai, God forbid. What was the miracle of Purim? Was that even from that level of higher than Shtalshalos, that the 50th gate, what was it? It was Heichin Loi. All along he was preparing for himself. That even on that level, Talos Haman al Eitz, Haman himself was hanged. So this reveals that even all along when he was preparing the tree, the gallows, he was preparing it for himself all along. וזהו עניין פורים, שבימי הפורים בכל שנה ושנה נמשך שגם בדרגת הפור של המעלה משל שזה יבחלון נסח לזנו סגן יעקב גמר ומוחה אמחה זכר המלך גמר בגאולה השלמה בקרב ממש. So the same is true with regard to Purim every single year, that we access this level of choice in the essence of Hashem, that then causes us to be redeemed in the full redemption. May it be speedily in our days. Amen. Yeah, let's take a look at note 6 now. How are we doing in time? 5 minutes. I'm sorry?
Almost 5 minutes.
Ultimately, though, like Rivka has to say.
Okay, we'll get to that story afterwards. Let's try and finish over here first. But what's the point? What's the point he's saying over here, though? Once the Eibusher chooses in his essence, that affects the Geirul itself, right? And so we see that as a result of Bechiras Ha'atzmos, there's no level in which that Bechira is not manifest. So even if on the surface, externally, it seems that Esav and Yaakov are the same, as we go down below that level of the essence of Hashem, below, we can't call it the level, but below the essence of Hashem, even so, ultimately, what's the inner dimension of it is always Oyev es Yaakov. The choice in the Jewish people is always present, right? But not only that, it's always present, it is the inner dimension of what's going on in the externally, which externally seems to be the opposite. It's the inner dimension of that itself. And that's what plays out on Purim. And that's why Purim is called Al Shem HaPur, the Pur of Haman, because it expresses this idea that there's no space, there's no level in which the Jewish people are not chosen by God. That is expressed by the fact that Purim is called HaPur because of Haman's lot. If we just called it Pur, we might still be able to make the mistake that Haman made, which is that, maybe God could choose the Jewish people in his essence, but there's a level of lottery where they're the same, right? By calling Purim after Haman's lottery, what are we saying? That even on that level, even on the level where evil seems to be prevailing over goodness, even on that level where Ach, Esav, Yaakov, where they're the same, even on the level where light and darkness are the same, even on that level, what happens? He determines his will, or his choice determines the outcome of that lottery as well. That even that is in line with the essence of Hashem. So that's expressed in that idea. Okay. The ramifications of that are very profound for us in our daily lives. The idea that there's never a space it's not going according to God's essence. There's never a circumstance, there's never a situation where a Jew can find himself in a place outside of God's Bechira. Okay, that's something to meditate on and think about. Let's look at note 69 here. So he says inside here that the Bechira of the Etzem of the Neshama is an Atzmas, based on a person's Mesiris Nefesh. The Rebbe is saying here that Mesiris Nefesh, which the people had at that time, the Rebbe says in Tanya that all year of the time of Haman's decree, the people had Mesiris Nefesh. Why? Because the Gzeira, Haman's decree, was only against Yehudim. Yehudim, why were the Eden called Yehudim? It says, why were they called Yehudi? That's the first place we find that all Jewish people are called Yehudi, even though Yehudi is a certain tribal affiliation. Somebody from the tribe of Yehuda was called a Yehudi. Why were all Jews called Yehudi? Mordechai himself is from the tribe of Binyamin, yet he's called, and that he's called Yemini, Ish Yemini. That's because he's from Binyamin, and yet he's Mordechai HaYehudi. Why? Because a Yehudi is the title given to somebody who denies idolatry and stays true to God. Right? So when a Jew goes to Mesiris Nefesh, has self-sacrifice to uphold his connection with God and proclaim his allegiance to God, even in the face of a possible death, that a person is called Yehudi. He acknowledges God, he's Moida in Hashem, and denies Avodah Zarah, denies idolatry. So since the Haman's decree was against Yehudim, against people who stayed faithful to God, if a Jew were to conceivably deny God, God forbid, would worship idols, the decree wouldn't apply to him. And yet, as Alter Rebbe says in Torah, he says that not a single person even entertained the thought of possibly denying God. That was great self-sacrifice. They were all willing to deal with the ramifications of staying true to their faith. So that Mesiris Nefesh is what brought about this idea that God also reveals his choice in the Jewish people. Why? Because this Mesiris Nefesh is from the essence of the soul. It says in note 69, B'tani said Perik Yitches, the Alter Rebbe says, She'i efsher klal lichber b'Hashem echad. Umavur b'makam acher, Tikim she'Mesiris Nefesh ugilei ha'yichid, she'ein kenegdu lo mazeh b'bur d'b'bur leslu, l'chein Mesiris Nefesh loi, u'b'efen she'eino yachal liyes nifrat chas v'sham. The idea that when we say Mesiris Nefesh, so real Mesiris Nefesh, as the Alter Rebbe talks about in Tanya, is a person can't even choose. There's no reason to choose one over the other. It's not like a person decides, I'm a frum Yid, I walk around, what's it going to look like if I, in the last minute, based on a little fear, I'm going to renounce everything I stand for, everything I represent. That would be a rational choice, to die rather than renounce God. But when we say that a Yid has Mesiris Nefesh, the main point is that he can't choose otherwise, incapable of choosing in any other way. Why? Because what's rooted in his essence is that choice in God. So in a sense, no. So what we're saying is that the fact that he can't make a choice, he can't choose otherwise, is because he's chosen freely. He's chosen God, right? There's no reason for him to choose that, and yet that's what he chooses. He's not free to separate from God. So it's not a choice that's made. It's not a process that he goes through, right? We know that Bechira is one of the foundations of Torah, right? The Bechira is one of the unique qualities of man. Yeah. Seemingly, what does it mean? If we're saying that he can't choose otherwise. If he can't choose, so how's that Bechira? So he says, what we mean is that not that he's forced to it. This idea is that once the Eibusher chooses Yidden freely, so now it's impossible for him to choose otherwise. He can't change us. He can't exchange us for somebody else. You say, just like he chose us, he can choose other way. But no, the fact that he chose us freely in Bechira Chavshis, he chose us freely without anything. So now we are rooted in his essence. And therefore he's incapable. It's not possible for him to choose in any other way because of the choice. And the same is true with regard to a Yid. Why is it that he can't choose to deny God? Because of his choice in God. Because since that choice is rooted in his essence, the fact that his essence is so bound to God as a result of that choice means that he's not capable of choosing in any other way.